Hello everyone and welcome to some MiSTer FPGA news. This week we will be talking about an N64 progress update, Konami CPU updates for more games, the Atari System 1, and more. So let's get to it. Attrack17 posted a Twitter thread that documents the development progress of the Jaleco Mega System 1 arcade core for MiSTer FPGA by Darren O. The thread highlights developments on decrypting ROM files, identifying errors in titles, fixing layer priorities, and more. To help with the encryption, the MAME debugger was used to dump unencrypted program ROMs. Attrack17 later posted a short video showing that sound for the FM chip is working. And another video was posted that shows off digital audio working in a game. The project is still a work in progress, but progress is being made towards supporting the entire platform. So that means we could get about an extra 20 games from this core. Games like Rodland, the Astyanax, and Saint Dragon. The MiSTex project now has a logo, contributed by Baxi Square on Instagram. It's a modified version of the MiSTer cat with googly eyes. Hans also posted a picture saying that the All-Winner D1 can comfortably host MiSTex in its 64 megabytes of internal RAM. The All-Winner D1 is a single board computer that is based on the open source RISC-V architecture. Boards come in around $12, so it's a very cost-effective device to use. This post is only about running the Linux portion, not about running cores. I always wanted a reason to obtain a RISC-V based device because I would like to support an open source CPU, and the MiSTex project gives me that opportunity. If you don't know what MiSTex is, it's a fork of the MiSTer FPGA project with the goal of being able to choose different FPGA chips so you're not limited to the DE10 Nano. The project is still in very early development, so it's not really usable for public use. Jimmy Stones has made several posts this month regarding a core for Juno First, a 1983 Konami shooter. He mentioned some technical details of the hardware, like that the hardware is 100% frame buffer with a 256 color palette and has a hardware blitter that can paste images from non-memory mapped ROMs. While the game looks simple, I do like its pseudo 3D effect. The next game in the MiSTer FPGA Discord Game Challenge is celebrating the release of the Irem M92 core by Wickerwaka. The game to play is R-Type Leo, and it's a single credit challenge. All scores must be submitted to the Game Challenge channel on Discord. R-Type Leo is one of those games that feels just right the moment you start playing. They really nailed the controls on this game. The core for the Atari System 1 has received some updates that makes more games playable. It still hasn't been officially released, but can be downloaded from GitHub. It can run 5 different arcade games, and here are the status of those games. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The game is playable without any visual issues, but sounds sometimes are cut off prematurely. Peter Packrat. It's playable with no obvious issues. Marble Madness. It's playable with the joystick as the trackball control. Roadrunner is playable, but sprites sometimes disappear. And Road Blasters is playable, but has some small video issues. You can download the core to play these games from GitHub. Robert continues working on the Nintendo 64 software emulator that will eventually turn into an FPGA core. The latest feature he had added to the emulator is LOD textures. He also posted an image of some of the progress. On the image that Robert provides, you can see that the road doesn't look correct on the left side. On the right image, you can see the sides of the road blending with the grass, giving the scene a smoother and more natural appearance. Another post notes that more games started running on the emulator after some fixes to the CPU cache. In that post, you can see Star Fox 64 running. Robert also plans on releasing the software emulator that he's creating. However, it's going to be too slow to play games, as its use is to help with the development of the FPGA core. The reason a software emulator is being developed first is because it speeds up Robert's development process. He always starts his FPGA cores with a software emulator. This was the case with the PlayStation Core, and that core's development went pretty fast. Later in the week, Robert also posted on Patreon another progress update on the software emulator. He is going to concentrate on the TLB, PAL timing, and flash memory. He also mentions that there are a significant amount of games that show at least something, but still very few games that are fully working in-game. There are much more details on the Patreon post, including the completion status of each subsystem of the software emulator. The developers of the MiSTer Multisystem have introduced a new hardware device for PC, Mac, Raspberry Pi, and of course the MiSTer FPGA. Called the CTRLDock Classic, it's a super low latency digital and analog interface for classic game controllers and peripherals. Testing to date has measured lag for all digital devices under 1 millisecond and all analog devices under 2 milliseconds. It has 2 DE9 and 2 DE15 ports to support a wide range of classic devices. Unfortunately, this device will not work for Nintendo controllers. It will work with controllers for systems like the Neo Geo, Sega Master System, Genesis, Atari VCS, and more. You can see a list of compatible controllers on the product page. If you're looking for Nintendo compatibility, they are planning a future version with those systems in mind. It's available to pre-order now and costs £90 without a case. The MiSTer Multisystem team have also introduced a Super Video Custard exclusively for the MiSTer Multisystem. It offers S-Video, composite video, and line-level stereo audio connections with both PAL and NTSC support. It can be used simultaneously with VGA or SCART without the need for any adapters or complex configurations. You can purchase it now for £66. Again, this is exclusively for the MiSTer Multisystem and will not work on a standard MiSTer setup. With standard MiSTer setups, you can obtain Mike Simone's adapters from several MiSTer vendors. Jotego gave us an update on work regarding games running on the Konami CPU. Thanks to help from Furtek, tilemap chips for Aliens was implemented. And we have some Simpsons news. Jotego has started work on the PCM chip for the game. This is a chip that produces digital audio so we can hear all those cool sound samples in the game. Jotego is back to developing the Neo Geo Pocket core. The team is currently focused on linking the currently developed subsystems together. And there were some other Jotego updates. They are closing some remaining items on the Sega System 18 schematics. Jotego has also implemented some small fixes on legacy cores. He always has shown that older cores won't be abandoned, and if there are any bugs or new features needed, then he will work on them. Also, if you happen to be in Valencia, Spain next weekend, Jotego and his team will have a booth at Retropolis, Valencia. Mr. Addons showed off how the latest version of his RF adapter is looking, but it still needs the audio trap. Version 0.3 will add stereo to mono down mixing and include a channel switch. On the post, it was mentioned that it originally was only supposed to have channel 4, but members of his Discord convinced him to actually have channel switching. I'm assuming it's going to be switching between channel 3 and 4 because that's what I remember seeing growing up. So it looks like someone has been able to compile the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles core directly from its source code. The Twitter account Your Lame Friends posted a video on Twitter showing the core running. It looks like it's running really well, however there is no sound. The developer Furtek even responded to the tweet. "Oh no, you found out before I was able to fix the missing audio." So it looks like Furtek is still working on the audio portion of the core. So far, this unofficial build of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles core has not been made freely available. But Furtek feels the core is almost ready for release, so we shouldn't be waiting too long. Keep in mind that the source code is available to download via GitHub, so pretty much anyone can build it for themselves if they know how to. I wouldn't be surprised if a build is available before this video goes up. And other miscellaneous MiSTer fixes and updates are, for the PCXT core, Always register SD-RAM input to make sure of fast input register. Some unnecessary clock domain crossings were removed. The OPL2_CEN was generated in the clock chipset domain. A change was made to make CMS tone pitch correct. These updates were thanks to Jaleco, Somhai for the pull request, and Kitsune-san for the review. For the Championship Vibo arcade core, the YM2151 and PCM clocks were updated to fix audio timing. For the Supervision 8000 core, a controller swap option was added to address Othello using Player 2 controller as the primary controller. For the IREM M92 core, there were fixes to Superior Soldiers, a volume effects adjustment was added, and flickering in Undercover Cops and Ninja Baseball Batman was fixed. And MiSTer Main has received several updates. For the Linux portion, the Realtek Wi-Fi drivers were updated. There are updates in the startup scripts to improve Wi-Fi startup. I wonder if these updates will fix an issue I'm having with Wi-Fi. On the two MiSTer systems that I have, Wi-Fi will not work if I set my router to assign specific IP addresses to both systems. But if I turn that off and just let the router assign whatever IP address it wants, Wi-Fi will work just fine. But this makes it pretty annoying for me if the IP addresses keep changing and I want to access the MiSTer FPGAs over the network. So hopefully these changes will fix that issue. Back to the updates. On the Linux portion, NFS was also enabled in the Linux kernel driver, but you still need scripts to initialize and mount NFS volumes. For MiSTer Main, there's updated Saturn support, so you no longer need an unstable build of MiSTer Main to use the latest Saturn test core. There was a fix to the on-screen display folder name scrolling that started with underscore. An option was added to reset core settings if settings in new core builds aren't compatible. David Shadoff fixed PC Engine support code. And there was preliminary Neo Geo CD support added. So if you want to try out the test Neo Geo CD core, you also won't need an unstable build of MiSTer Main. And there were some other fixes and tweaks. That's it for other updates. Please also try to support Sorge, the maintainer of the MiSTer project, and other MiSTer developers and contributors on support platforms such as Patreon and Ko-fi. Their hard work allows us to enjoy this amazing project. So that's it for this episode. I provided links to all my sources in the description. Make sure you also check out RetroRGB.com to see my MiSTer news videos in blog form and to get more retro related content. And if possible, support them on Patreon too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and its bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.